Welcome to Unshakeable, the podcast that shares stories of resilience in the face of life's toughest challenges. I'm your host, Aviwe Soizwapi, and each week we dive into real conversations that not only inspire but help us grow, offering insights on how to navigate our own struggles with strength and purpose. Because resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about standing firm when life tries to shake you. This is Unshakeable. Let's get into it. Hello, Unshakeable family. Welcome to another week of Unshakeable. The weeks keep coming along. We are now on week 23. It's so exciting, and every week there's something new to talk about. There's new people to meet. I won't say that I'm meeting this guest here today for the first time, but I'm really excited to introduce her to you. We've come a long way. Grew up in the same small little town in the Eastern Cape. Our families are very intertwined. She then moved to Port Elizabeth, then came to Cape Town, and now is based in Johannesburg. She's got a degree in management in information science, information systems, where she completed that in the University of Cape Town. University of the Western Cape, sorry.
There's something else at you.
University of the Western Cape. She'll tell us more about what she did in the University of Cape Town. So I'm really excited today to have our guest here today, Aviwe Funani. Welcome to Unshakeable.
Hey! Glad to be here.
My sister.
Oh, my little brother.
How have you been?
So good. So good. I'm running on a little bit of sleep because it's busy, but I am happy and honored and excited to be here with you.
I'm so glad that you actually agreed to sit down with me. I think we tried to get it going in August already because it was such an important month with Women's Month. And October was Mental Health Awareness for Men. And I know November is also an awareness month with men's issues and wellness around that. So I think this episode is happening at an incredible time. But I want we'll chat, it's just a conversation, but we'll really have to nail on the mental health side of things because I know it's a passion to you. When you were in Maclear back in the days, did you have any idea you'd be doing what you're doing today?
No, but I do look back now and think, actually, I'm wired. I was wired to do what I'm doing. My parents were always involved in some form of community service, and I always had a passion for community service. I didn't understand that there's a world outside of, volunteering, and that you could actually do like this form of work or advocacy on a day-to-day. So I'm really excited that I get to do what I love. Honestly, it's such a privilege, it's such a delight.
You got actually a bursary to do agricultural sciences in Port Elizabeth, and then you left that. You ended up doing something else.
Pulling up my files.
No, but the reason why I mention it is because sometimes we do things to get work, and neglect the passion that is burning within inside of us, and we end up not loving what we do.
Sure.
So you ended up in what was always your passion. Do you know what I mean? So can you tell us a little bit about navigating around making a choice as to what you're gonna do with your life and then ending up in your passion?
So yes, I finished went to school in Maclear High, did a bit of high school in Margate, KwaZulu-Natal, and then came back and did my matric in Mthatha. And when I matriculated, at the time, and I think I've always had this passion because my dad has always been in as a nurse, but part doing agriculture and farming, and so has my aunt, my mother's sister. So I always had a hidden passion for agricultural studies and sciences. So that was one, why I wanted to go that particular career path. But then also, I'm just so privileged in terms of my parents and how they were just like, regardless of, getting good grades, what do you want to do? Like, we worked hard so that you can have the life that you want to really enjoy. So I did information systems. I'm a tech girl through and through. I love technology. Nice. I love what it can unlock in terms of equity and just opportunities for people who have not grown up with those opportunities. So I did my information systems. I did business studies through UCT afterwards. So again, it was just like this piling up of moving into, for me, a world of economic independence for young people, whether that is through understanding economics, whether that's through agriculture, or whether that is through information systems and design. So that was that. And then when I graduated, I was like, I love what I studied, but there's got to be more, And I think being in Cape Town, for me, it was the first time being outside of that bubble in Maclear and just seeing how there is such a thing as inequality. And I was just like, okay, I've got to be a part of the change. Like, it's worth it. And again, like, I'm so grateful for my parents, because anyone else would have been like, what are you doing? We paid for your studies. Why would you drop this? But my parents were just so supportive of like, we get it. Like, we'll be here. We'll support you. Do what you believe is impactful. And so I was just like, okay, it's really, it's been really a catalyst in terms of my career. So then I came into this work. I don't know if you want me to carry on.
Before you get to that, I want to actually, you touched on being like loving tech.
Yes.
And you ended up studying that. You mentioned something about ensuring that people who don't have access to it can get that access.
Yeah.
Do you still implement that in your day-to-day?
I think the systems thinking will always be there, which is something I enjoy in terms of just how do you connect people with technologies. But a part of my story is that I started my career in community work by helping to build a coding and business academy for girls from Kailija. So that is, one of the ways that I started out this map of like working with young people in communities.
And because of that statement of making sure that people who don't have access to tech have it as well, it immediately speaks to your heart towards people.
Yeah.
Would you say that you ended up in the United for Global Mental Health business and organization because you know how much work they do for people?
Yes, definitely. So I used to work for Waves for Change, which is a partner organization of United for Global Mental Health, and I was leading their program in Muizenberg, Cape Town. And I connected with United for Global Mental Health during the pandemic. We were doing webinars and all this stuff, and I was like, this organization is incredible. It's an international organization. It started in London, and we have, we're a global team, and I was just so drawn to the work they do. And also for people living with mental health conditions, it's just, it's an advocacy organization, but I loved that every time I interacted with this organization, I was like, they actually practice what they preach. Their ethos, you can see it. They respect people living with mental health conditions. So I was drawn to that. I was just like, for me, values are everything. And the minute I connected with the values of the organization, I was like, where do I sign up and apply?
You'll tell us more about the work you do and the groundwork, the day-to-day, and all this traveling that you've been doing. We really want to hear more about it. But you mentioned also your parents and how open they've been, how great of a relationship you've had with them, and how understanding they were of not just your situation, but just your life and where you found yourself in whatever season of life. I also know that you are, and you said this as well on an interview, that you are encouraged to ask questions at home.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
How did that shape your journey and finding your purpose?
Curiosity was encouraged in my household, which I think is one of the biggest blessings you can give to a child, is allow them to be curious. And I love that you found that. Where did you find that? The internet. Oh my gosh.
Internet has everything.
So I think as a child I was just naturally curious. Also, I grew up around boys, my brothers, my male cousins, but I constantly would ask questions. I remember one of the first questions I asked my dad was, why are there no women presidents? But instead of my father trotting that down, he really encouraged me. He was like, well, if you want to be president one day, you can be. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much permission in, asking questions, from my mom around like creativity, because my mom is a creative and she's just done such amazing work as a teacher, but also just enabling creativity in other young people. So I was just constantly in this, like an ecosystem of not just love, but just be curious, ask questions, don't fit in a box. Like, what do you want? Don't ask us what we want for you, but constantly like, what do you know, but what do you want? So I was like, oh my gosh, why are you always asking me what I want? Why don't you tell me what I want? But I didn't realize that my parents were just pushing the way my mind thought to be like, don't depend on other people to tell you what you already know you want. Don't ask for permission on things that you already have. Just step into them. So I was a very curious child. I think I'm still very curious to the day, and I love it.
I won't lie to you, like I never knew that side of them, but obviously you won't know a parent's parenting style if they're not parenting you.
Exactly.
But that is very incredible to hear and know. And I'm for that. I support that 100% as well. So in you growing up in that type of household, and you mentioned you have brothers as well. When did you first realize then that there's not a lot of female leaders? When did it come to you? Can you remember? Can you take us back to that?
Since from as young as I could remember, because watching TV, I was always like, why are the women always the secretary? Why are all the presidents men? And old men at that, which we can still see in the world, but from a very young age, and like also because my mother's mom, my grandmother, which she's a phenomenal woman, and she's been like headmistress, and she's been a nurse, and she's done so many vocations, and I saw this example of a woman who's a leader, but I didn't see that in communities and in society, and I would always ask my parents like why is the world like this? But I was always met with the answer of like, well, you have the power to be that shift in this narrative around women. And I think also just I'm so grateful for my brothers, so grateful for my cousins, because they've just always been, as much as I was the only girl, I was overprotected, yes, but I think there was also always like, come play with the boys, you know? It was never like, go play with your dolls on the side. It was always like, you have as much right to exist in our world. So I love that.
Being around boys and having brothers, with this overhanging question that you have about female leadership, how did that help you deal with this question that you had? Like, it sounds like they made you understand how males operate and why males are leaders, and the fact that you could come and play with the boys. Did that have any impact or effect on
you? A tough girl.
You became a tough girl.
Yeah, I became a tough girl.
let me ask it this way: in all of that interaction and engagement, how did it stir something within you to say, I understand that this is the narrative, but now this narrative I'm gonna change? What stirred that in you?
I wish I knew the answer. I'd say this is the part where I say it could only be God, honestly. Something that I think they're just locked in our DNA, and they get unlocked as we grow up. I just think I knew within myself that there was more for women. Like deep down in my heart, I always knew. I was like, I've seen women do incredible stuff in my community. Our moms throwing Christmas parties for the entire town. And I'd seen women in leadership, and that didn't make me look at women as second-class citizens, but I looked at them and I was like, these women are just incredible. And imagine if I took what they're doing now and I can do it anywhere and everywhere. It's going to change lives. So for me, like my mom, your mom, the mothers of Maclear, shout out to you. That for me was very inspiring.
No, for sure. And it's amazing to grow up in that way and have people that are older than you, mentors, leaders that you can look up to, because they set the precedent, and we follow in those footsteps. You started mentioning your brothers and mingling with the boys. I want you to tell us more about the dynamics of the Funani household, and including the cousins and the grands, just to give the listeners and the viewers a little bit of the background and how you grew up.
Aww, you're the first. I've done so many interviews and no one's ever asked me this question. This is so special. So I am the youngest of 3 kids. I'm the only girl with 2 big brothers. So in terms of just like my relationship with my brothers, our parents raised us, we were very close. And I think like some of my favorite memories with my brothers is when I went from like primary school to big school, and I remember like them being so excited with me, like, oh, you're gonna go to big school, and these are the teachers you're gonna get. And even when our dad dropped us off the first day, I didn't cry, like other kids were crying. I was like, I've got the boys, like they told me. And it was just such a blessing growing up with my brother. And I think even like my male cousins, so my mom, funny enough, my gran had all female children, and all her females had sons except for me, and my other younger cousin who's also a girl. So we grew up very close because the sisters were very close. So we did like holidays together, and it was just me and like 6 other boys. But it was just there was just so much love and so much, even if we would tease each other and whatever, but there was just so much love and support and kindness, and also just like even my cousins from my dad's side, and there's just been so much, I think, love. I can only say that. Yeah, I can definitely say I've been so blessed to be loved. That is the only way I can explain it, because I've experienced love so much from my family.
That's amazing. And for me, it makes sense now how you show this love with the work that you do, because it comes together, and it's because of the household that you grew up in. So information systems, what was the dream when you were studying that? You had this thing, I'm taking over the world, I'm going to make sure that women have a voice in this world, but then you go and you study information system. What was the dream?
Well, one of the parts of the dream was that there weren't so many women in tech at that time.
Changing the narrative.
Yeah, and remember around that time is when Facebook came out. And there were the MySpaces and the Facebooks and all these different, I know some of you guys are new, no idea what MySpace is, but for me, again, I was so curious. I was like, this is a world where a lot of women are not picking this as like a vocation. Like why are there so few women in tech? And with systems, you can do business information systems. So mine was more along the lines of how do we connect humans with the digital world? What are the systems that connect these two entities? Which I absolutely love to this day. And I think, it's phenomenal, and I loved that, and I thought if I could potentially be in that, I'll do projects that, again, demonstrate that, there's room, not just for women, but also for people who come from like small towns, little Maclears, you know what I mean? Botswana, all these small places that actually we could change the game in terms of how tech is looked at.
Did you feel that moving to Cape Town would accelerate everything for you because Maclear is such a small town?
I did not think of that. I did know that moving to Cape Town meant, as a child who was consistently curious, that I had so many more questions I needed answers to, and moving to a bigger city was part of
answers.
More answers, more questions, and also just there's such a history, so much history all over South Africa, but particularly in Cape Town. And so that also for me was a big deal, and to meet so many different people. I think sometimes when we grow in small towns, we can be one-dimensional in our thinking. Very. And again, I wasn't raised to be one-dimensional, so I knew there had to be more outside of just, my little town.
Where do you think that came from? This curiosity and this knowing that there's more to life than...
I think definitely my parents. I feel like I'm mentioning my parents so much, but honestly, I definitely think my parents, there's even talking to my mom, there were certain things that she dreamed of being an actress, in the 60s, who was dreaming, a young black girl from a village. And she was she knew she wanted to be an actress, know. And my parents my dad was a nurse, my mom was a teacher, but they had entrepreneurial ventures in the background, like any other parent in Maclear. So for me, it was just these people see the world in another way, and there's something to this that says there's more to life than just going to work, getting a paycheck, going to sleep, and also that my parents were just in community work, I'm sure our house was always full of people, full of young people all the time. And it's just because my mom was such a community person. And actually recently, a few weeks ago, I celebrated my birthday, and one of my friends was actually, your mom used to literally just always bake stuff, and if you come back from school, your mom would just not let us go until we had the muffins or the cakes or whatever's. And I'm that's true. But things like that, it's small, but it actually was just, it showed me that the world was bigger than our household. And my family was bigger than Aviwe, Kamani, mom and dad. It was bigger, and I had to have that in mind constantly. Everything that I did, I had to be as selfless as possible.
I like that, really like that. And then in Cape Town, there's Waves for Change, which you mentioned. How was that your very first community project, or what did you first stumble into before you ended up there?
Dream Factory Foundation was my first, my first community work. So a dear mentor of mine, Lusanda Mahwapi, she's based in Botswana now. She started Dream Factory Foundation. And I remember just telling her, because at the time I was still doing my work in media, project management, digital work, and I was actually, I want to do something to help girls. I just don't know what it is, but I know there's more. And she was we've got this project, come through Dream Factory Foundation. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I kid you not, this was August 2016, and I've not looked back.
Wow.
Literally. So when I joined Dream Factory, they had just received funding from Google and USAID to do coding for young girls that are unemployed, had finished matric and unemployed. And they wanted to design this business and coding school. So I was like, I just got here now, but I've never designed a school before. I've never designed a curriculum. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But I'm so Lusanda is one of the, I know everybody who's been mentored by Lusanda, they're changing the world. And she was just so kind and patient in terms of mentoring me in that process of, this is what the school will look like, this is what the academy will do. And then we started with the first cohort of girls in 2017, Jan or Feb. And yeah, they were doing coding. And we also found how, because a lot of the girls had never been exposed to laptops or digital infrastructure, that we had to do the most entry level of computer literacy. And also teaching them business skills, but allowing them to do a lot of leadership and job shadowing.
Yeah.
So and like I said, working in Cape Town communities, it changed my life. It was my first time going into the Cape Flats.
Yeah.
Because at times we would have to go do coding literacy in the Cape Flats at the schools, and it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life, and I thought, truly, this is what I was born to do. All the young people I've ever met in my life have led up to this moment, because I just think that the young people in the Cape Flats are full of ideas and potential and just so much greatness and so much love and empathy, and I learned so much. And I felt a lot of times it wasn't just about what I was giving in that community, but also what I was getting.
Yes.
And that was so special, even from the parents. So I just felt like, okay, I'm staying. I'm gonna keep doing this work. And I've just been doing work that is around youth programs or policy and advocacy.
Was it similar work with Waves for Change, or did you now start doing something, obviously still giving back, but something completely different?
So Waves for Change was more a sports for well-being program. So I moved from being fully in the tech. I can see how much you're smiling because you love sports.
I want you to get into it, because you mentioned something so critical now before we started recording about how sport is good for mental health, but we're going to talk a lot more about mental health now, then we're going to talk about sport.
So I came into Waves for Change 2018, and I was their monitoring and evaluation lead, and then moved into managing the program for South Africa. And so Waves for Change is a organization that was started in Muizenberg, here in Cape Town, and with children from Masipumelele and Lavender Hill, I think. So many of the children used to come with the founder of the organization to the beach, and one of the things before the organization became an organization, the question was why do you keep showing up every Saturday? And the response from the children was, because someone listens to us. And if you think children love to play and go to see their friends, but if you keep making your way to the beach every Saturday, and your main reason is not because I want to get in the water, all these other things, it's because someone listens to me. The organization was formed from there.
Wow.
And it was a fusion of sports, and when it started, it was life skills, and then more research went into the mental health component, and now it is fully fledged as a sport and mental health program.
Wow, amazing. And now obviously United for Global Mental Health.
Yay!
And you are heading up such a massive initiative that spans over 12 countries.
Yeah.
I think it's called the Being Initiative.
Yeah, Being. It's such a big baby now.
What was the most eye-opening thing for you with that position and the work that you've been doing?
With the Being Initiative?
Yeah.
So many things. I think the shift from working in communities to working at a policy level, because a lot of people, like I was joking when we spoke earlier, that the minute you say policy, people are like, oh, you're selling life insurance. And it's actually, policy is, we might say we're all not political, but policy or politics influences every part of our lives, and so United for Global Mental Health is in the advocacy for policy change work. So we do a lot of work with the World Health Organizations, the United Nations, UNICEF, which is focusing on children. And a lot of the work we're pushing for is how can mental health be prioritized by heads of states or governments, ministers of health and finance, community-based leaders. So that's a lot of the work that we do. And I think one of the most eye-opening things, like you asked, is there's so much more that turns the wheels of society that we need to be a part of as citizens. It's great that we're all on the initiative side of implementing programs, but we need people to advocate, at a high level and say to our, decision makers and big funders that you need to invest in the mental health of young people, because if you're thinking, economic gains, if you're thinking health targets, SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, you cannot do any of those without health and the health of young people and healthy young people. So that is everything.
Okay, so it's you mentioned two things now. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on, because I promise you, different generations have different perspectives on things.
Definitely.
So I know there's a generation watching and listening today that's gonna say mental health is for this generation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I want, if you could please just elaborate a little bit more why it is important for mental health to be at the center of global conversations.
I love that question, at the center. Because at the center, we all have health. We like to talk about our physical health. So as much as
should we look at it as an illness?
No, because we all have health, right? So just as you have your physical health, and your physical health can be in a good state, in a bad state. It's a continuum. It's the same with your mental health. It's just that your mental health doesn't always present externally like your physical health. So it's the same. We all are sitting here, as long as you got your head, you've got you have mental health. And so that's been another thing in terms of the work that I've been doing that's really opened my eyes, is that the word mental health is seen in a lot of spaces as a mental illness, whereas mental illness is just a part of mental health. But like you said, why we need to put it at the center of global conversation, even local conversation, is that just like we all have physical health, we all have mental health. And the same way, you can go to Discam. Sorry, Discam, for mentioning.
It's probably a good thing.
Hey, Discam. And you can get like a headache tablet, for headache. You're not sitting there being like, I am the headache. I'm such a bad person. I'm the You're not the headache.
Yeah.
This is a a brain health thing, and it's the same with mental health. It's neurological, and I'm not going to get into the neuroscience of everything, but it is a brain thing. But not only that, our bodies respond to different situations differently. And that's why talking about mental health is so important, because we can talk about like violence prevention. That is a mental health issue, because if you're exposed to violence, that means your mental health is compromised. If you do things like playing sport, that means that in a way, as your physical body is getting healthier, your brain is getting healthier, because if, for example, you're participating in a physical activity, your brain goes into what is known as flow states. So when you hit a flow state is when it's just you and the board on the field. And what you don't know what is happening in that process, these little things that are called neural pathways in your brain that look like little trees, those little things are actually, in a way, reactivating and healing themselves. And that's what a lot of people don't know, is that the brain has self-healing powers, and yet we take those for granted and think, we don't know what to do with the brain. We don't know how to have healthy brains. Play sport, drink water,
Is there another factor that makes sports so crucial for good mental health?
So one of the things research has found is that mental health is good. No, sport is good for mental health, in that it creates a sense of belonging and community. And what we found working in, having worked in the Cape Flats and a lot of other violence areas, whether it is in Somalia, whether it's in Liberia, where they're recovering from wars and all of that, is that with sports, children start to feel safe again in community. Whereas in many war-ridden places, community is used against children. So whether that is through violent gangs, whether it's through armies, whether it's through recruitment of child soldiers, community is used negatively, and yet it is actually a sense of healthy community contributes to you feeling safe. And the minute you feel safe, again, those neural pathways, your brain is in a happy state.
Okay, no, that's incredible. You obviously have representation and you have equality very close to your heart. What would it look like? What would representation look like for you, ideally, besides that checkbox that is done? What is the ideal picture of representation when you think about it?
Oh, what a good question. Representation. Oh my gosh. One, that representation is not one-dimensional. It is layered, but that any form of representation needs to be embedded in equity. So when you talk about equity, we're going a step further from just saying equality. That's like saying we're all in one classroom, but we can all be in one classroom and not everyone has a pencil to write with, which is what we see in society right now in South Africa, is the inequality gap. And inequality forces people into inequity, or is a fruit of inequity. And so for me, representation would be able to bring a sense of equity within society, where everyone receives what they need to be the best versions of themselves.
Amazing. What is the best way that we can educate our peers about mental health?
Just talk. Just talk. It's important to have conversations, because when we don't talk about stuff, stigma carries on. People say, the wrong things, but if we can educate each other, have conversations, not just on platforms like this, but over coffee, over dinner, while you're running, do meditations, things as small as that.
There's a lot of, there's a big, I know on the 21st of November, there's actually a shutdown. Women for Change has a shutdown.
Yes.
And there's a lot of conversations that we can have around women. But for you, what challenges do you see besides, of course, including gender-based violence? What challenges do you see today against women? And what can we as communities, again, including everyone, because this is a South African thing, this is a community thing, this is a global thing where we have to come together, particularly in South Africa, you know. What can we do to support women better?
Give them more money. I'm for real. I'm for real. This guy, like for real. If we look at pay inequity, it's so real. Like men and women can be doing the same job, but the woman has the highest likelihood of being paid way less for the same job. So something as and that's something we don't talk about, but we need to pay women equally, you know. So that's
especially if they're doing the same thing.
Especially if they're doing the same thing, and even if it's investing in women's businesses, like start trusting women with money. Like you know, you see it, Stockfells, you see it. Mamas selling on the street, like our economies run on the backs of women, but we fail to trust women with big amounts of money when it comes to investing in them. So so just as that project I worked on that was saying, actually we'll put money into teaching girls how to code and start their own businesses and give them like their first seed funding for their business, things like that we need to do more of.
No, I mentioned women and jumped into that topic because it's quite a topic that it's trending at the moment, and women shouldn't trend for
painful things,
sad things, and that actually saddens me, you know, and I can only imagine what their mental health looks like, because I jumped straight into the woman thing because we're just speaking now about mental health, and I can't imagine what their mental health is like because of things like gender-based violence. What needs to be done as a country? This is a big big action that Women for Change is doing, to have a shutdown on the 21st of November. To make this stop, to make this gender-based violence thing that is so prevalent in South Africa stop. What more do we need to do? Because it needs to stop.
It has to. It has to. I think bringing that into every part of society, like I feel we only talk about gender-based violence every time something happens. And then it's like this big blow up and everybody, you know, we're protesting and campaigns, and then it dies down again, and that it becomes a woman's issue again. But we just need active advocacy and activism, and like we just need all of society to get behind causes that affect women. And not only when there are issues of injustice, but just we need consistency. Because only consistency can bring change. I'll tell you that from an advocacy perspective. It's like, if you're not consistent with a message, it will not be sustainable.
I'm throwing all these questions at you because you are the advocate here and on a global level, so you've got all the experience. So you have that hat of a global advocate, and you also have a hat of a tech graduate, you know. How do you navigate, you personally, how do you navigate those changes as a human, as an individual? How do you navigate those
changes between tech and I think, well, as human beings, we're made up of different elements, right? Life experiences, all of that. So I would say all of those experiences have made me who I am today. They've all built this bigger puzzle, and I'm always evolving and growing and learning. So I just enjoy the journey and the growth. Honestly, it's just I constantly show up as my full self in spaces. Not every space will welcome every part of you, but I like to show up fully as myself. And to share the knowledge and the learnings I've had and the experience I have. But also with all those hats on, learning to listen. I think that's been one of my favorite lessons. The older I grow up is I love listening to people. Because people want to be listened to.
I love that you mentioned that. And you also mentioned earlier that the boys and girls, the kids that came for surfing on a Saturday,
exactly,
they came back because they want to be seen. So for young people that are listening and watching today who feel that they're unheard, they're not listened to, that they're unseen, and they're unsure of themselves, what would you say to them? Good question. Can I look at the camera? Speak to them.
No, this guy. So firstly, young people, you are enough. I think the world doesn't tell you enough that you are enough. Every part of who you are, your identity, things that you don't even find great are all part of your journey and your story, and that makes you who you are, and that someone in the world needs you to show up as your full self, and you have permission to do that. I think, again, not enough people give permission, and we have a responsibility as older generations to tell you that, you know, you can show up as your full self. And I know this is cliche, but honestly, the world is yours. A line that my dad loved to say was, the world is what you make it. And so craft your world. Even in the most discouraging spaces, please know that there is a silver lining that has your name on it, and I really would encourage you to know in the back of your mind, no matter what happens, that it is there, and the world is what you can make it. So no matter where you are, you are the answer to someone's problem.
And what about that little girl from Maclear who had all the questions, who had the curious mind, the little young Aviwe Funani?
I'm so grateful for her.
What do you have to say to her?
Thank you. No, for real. That's the only thing I can say to my younger self, is just thank you for asking questions. Thank you for daring to challenge yourself, for asking questions, for making mistakes and learning from them, and just getting wiser with age. But also thank you for allowing yourself to be loved and to give love.
Amazing. Aviwe, I'm so happy we finally did this today. And I just want to say, from someone that grew up with you from the same town, actually have a lot to share in our youth. I'm really so proud of how far you've come in life, and really inspired by the work that you do.
Thank you.
And continue doing it. I mean, you're doing it at a global stage now, and it's so inspiring. These are conversations and topics that we need to hear. To avoid things like gender-based violence.
Definitely.
And to have the next stars of tomorrow to represent us on the world stage. So I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you so much for agreeing to have a chat with me. And even if it happened 3-4 months later,
perfect timing.
I'm glad it happened. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm so proud of you. Like, you know, You're big now. I can't pick you up, but I'm very
You
proud.
promised not to.
I promise not to. I promise not to embarrass you. But thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yay! Thank you very much. Unshakable family, thank you so much once again for tuning in. So much to take away, and mental health is very important. You might not understand what it is, but I challenge you today to go do your research on what it is actually about. Women that are out there that feel like they don't have a voice, you feel like you don't belong. Our guest here today has spoken to us all as to how we belong in this world as individuals, and the impact that we can have if we really put our mind to it and believe it from within. So thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode. We will catch you next time on the next episode of Unshakeable. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning into Unshakeable. If today's story moved you, inspired you, or gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about staying rooted when the world shakes. If you haven't already, hit follow, leave a review, and help us grow this community of resilient voices. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, stay unshakable.